Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. As always, I have an important question to ask. Are psychedelics a false light? Because if it is, then it explains what's really going on with people who regularly take psychedelics. First of all, of course, we need to define what is the false light. And I have one definition that anything that is conjured up by the mind, okay, just made up as a hallucination to pacify that feeling of seeking in your heart, that it's not really seeking anything tangible, it's just seeking alleviation. It doesn't want to feel bad, and it seeks for all sorts of ways of alleviating that. um and one of those is psychedelics, and that's one group of drugs. You can call them red pills. And then of course these other group of drugs, call them blue pills, right? Like cocaine, heroin, and all these other substances. Now, it seems that psychedelics do help and alleviate the addiction from the blue pill drugs, and that is true. However, it leaves one still not free. Okay, and neither blue pill, neither red pill is a real light, which is the only thing that can be um, real is upon you calibrating your consciousness and dissolving that. Reason for needing to take anything exogenously. Because here's what I've noticed, and this is why I'm questioning this. Yes, there is a benefit, and if somebody is in this type of addiction of these like really detrimental addictions, right? And taking a psychedelic relieves them of these detrimental addictions, but it obviously creates another one. You may argue that it's kind of less damaging and less unhealthy, but nevertheless the addiction is still there. And most of the thing that I see with the people who take psychedelics regularly is that they, because it dissolves boundaries, they start dissolving the boundaries and seeking for that gratification in all sorts of Luciferian ways, as I call them, right? This is what I've noticed. For some reason, these people who do these ceremonies regularly, they all have no boundaries. They have no sexual boundaries. That you can might as well just put them in a hamster box and they will just go at it, you know. And that is like, what is this? This isn't love, right? This isn't freedom. And so that's one of the things that you've noticed is that that's the approach that they have. Now, of course, this is still hell. This is still false light. It's still lust based. It is not. You're still not free. And so that's what I have to say about almost maybe like even foreshadowing that psychedelics should be used under the clinical setting for the reason of somebody getting rid of that real deep addiction, and with the understanding that it's not going to um, help you navigate life. You cannot rely upon this because some people say, well, it's impossible to get addicted to this, these things, because it's like so. No, yes, you don't take it every day, but you may take it every year, maybe every 6 months, or some people every month or whatever, and say like, yeah, I'm not addicted to that. and they're just keeping a pulse going by taking it regularly. And it's another form of addiction, but there's a denial there because you don't take it regularly. It's still an addiction. um, no, but I do see the use of psychedelic to create that type of state in the mind which just gets you out of that default habitual mode of operating. And so then it really at least gives you an experience where the life could be another way. But then it's up to you. You have to now calibrate your consciousness yourself on a regular basis, which is just like a part of life. And that will take your attention away from bullshit and put your attention away on where it's supposed to be. That type of flip. And that would be the story that is, you know, right. And you're not getting trapped in any of these. You might be addicted to something, you take a psychedelic, it wipes these addictions, it shows you how the world can be, and then it gives you at least um, some longing for that state which is naturally with you, and you can have that with you upon calibrating your consciousness. So this is where I'm at right now, and I just want to help people to calibrate their consciousness, because I also recognize that false light is the antichrist. Okay, doing something out of lust to get off, it is the false light, it is the antichrist, it is backwards. It is not. It's I hope I'm communicating this correctly. And I'm speaking this from experience, because I have to say that an one experience um, would definitely made me see things more clearly. But at the same time, that use that, you may say, like, well, every year it's not really often you're not addicted, but just because, I mean, I continually used it like every year or so, that was not helpful anymore. Okay, and in fact that brought me to the deeper and deeper hole, and to the point where none of these things could get me out of, and I had to get out of myself. And then once I figured out that I can get out of myself, of that type of deep hole, then I know that these little ones that happen every day and whatever, it's just a piece of cake, and it's possible to do this. And that's basically my story. So I'm not speaking from any judgmental point, because I've been through all of those things. But I know what is the uh, progression in this game. And if someone came up to me and said and showed it to me and said, like, hey, you don't have to take psychedelics, you've already taken, you already seen what's up, now you can calibrate that energy yourself. There's going to be all sorts of emotional challenges in your life where you're going to have an opportunity to alchemize those energies and access the real light that is emanating infinitely and naturally, and not caused by anything external or conjured up by your brain. That includes in this placebo effects. This creates, um, of course, the world of all of these um, con artists. I don't want to glorify by mentioning their names, but creating placebo effects within the human mind and telling that this is the way, this is that experience, and it may simulate that. It may create that pseudo light energy for a moment, but it's false. It is conjured up by the mind. It is not real. And if you live in the environment where that is a sort of like common practice, this is how people live through the heart all the time, you will need to get you don't even get into the cycles of addictions, because the challenge arises. There might be temptation to go there. There might be some slipping up and trying it out, seeing where it gets you, and then immediately alchemizing that and patching that up. And that, I think that's a healthy life where you just slip up once and you alchemize and not have that same vulnerability. But the understanding is there that it's this cultivation of the real light, and recognizing the difference between the false light and the real light. And again, if the definition is that anything external or anything conjured up by your mind, it is a false light, then psychedelics is a false light. Red pill is not out of the matrix as it's shown in the movie. It is a glimpse that is basically um, temporarily, and I have to say, simulated of what the true freedom can be like. And once I heard somebody say that psychedelics is not creating this real world of spirit, I got upset. I was like, "What are you talking about? Yeah, you take it and and you enter the world of spirit. And what do you mean it's not the real world of spirit?" But now I understand what that person meant, because it is not exactly like the real world of spirit. It is a mock-up of it. It is very close, but it's not yet the real thing, because you're approaching it still through the temporal reality, and even the infinite is kind of simulated for you. Like you have not earned it. You see, like that's what it is. And I hear a lot of people right now, when they take psychedelics, they don't go anywhere. They've been banned from that. um, because why have they been banned is because two reasons. One reason, that this is not about that you must find your own way through the eye of a needle, and you must calibrate the energies. That's the deal. That's how you play this game. And the second reason, because a lot of people are already playing this game right. I know this for a fact. And the more people playing this game right, the more they're out of this, simulation reality. The more these things stop working. And it's I've just noticed this, okay, within myself, and because my consciousness is not different from anybody else's consciousness, I'm maybe folded differently, but the principles are still the same with everybody. I can see within myself that, oh, the rediscovery of the real light, or the real alchemy, and the emanation of the real light does something, and takes away the the allure of the false one, because it's not working anymore. Understand? Because when you compare the false light with the real light, because before you may not have any kind of frame of reference, but now that you do have a frame of reference, it shades in comparison. It's just like, what the fuck is this even? You're like, I can't believe I was addicted to this shit. And so that includes many things. That includes losing interest you know in fighting, getting in arguments and fights, and with like a rage, uh, watching content that is rage baiting, um, watching the lust based content, and giving you energy, that because it is not doing the thing that it used to do. So the interest in it is lost, and it's very, very powerful. So which means that, your responsibility and my responsibility is real light, and I assume we already had enough life experiences to say that, okay, all of the other things have been tried. The only thing that's left is real. And um and uh and that's it. And you end this, and you see that, other people are still kind of hooked into this old way of chasing false light and believing that that is spirituality. But you can clearly see that it's just a Luciferian trap. And uh and if that triggers you, and if there is kind of energy there that is kind of not aligned, you calibrate it, and align it. But that is real work. It is not in a layer of the mind. It's very different. Most people, very few people who actually touching this directly, and when they touch this directly, like everything else fades in comparison. It just becomes obsolete. The realization is that, like, okay, all these other things are backwards. Going to retreats, having this psychedelic ceremonies, all sorts of mind-based healings, all of that is just backwards. I don't even know, like, it's accepted to be all the spirituality, like, oh, this is this external thing that is going to help you with this. And so all sorts of tricks and gadgets and everything, and you realize none of it is um, valid, because it's all external, it's all temporary, and it's not coming from the inside. So the culture is weird. So is it worth taking anything exogenously to 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 help with that? If you've never taken it and you're so, you know fixed in some addiction or some dysfunction, that will snap you out of it. But that would be it. After that, there should be a right type of help by real people who do not condone any further use of it, but condone your own consciousness calibration, as I call it, which is the real way out, that gives you that real light, real joy, and so on. But to take psychedelic and have like a day, and then afterglow for like a month or two, whatever, how long it takes, for a person to still be on that glow. It's amazing when your life usually goes revolves in under, like, some dysfunctional thing. So, but yet still should be the recognition there that it was just a temporary glimpse, and you should not abuse it. Even Terence McKenna at the end of his life was admitting that he was going into, uh, like, his interest changed drastically towards the alchemy, and he wasn't that of a proponent and saying, like, well, take a toke of DMT and in 5 minutes you're there. You don't have to, meditate for years and sweep the ashram kind of thing. Both are bullshit. Sweeping ashram for years is bullshit, and abusing psychedelics is bullshit. You don't go there through the use of psychedelic. You go there through the use of consciousness, and you're not allowed there unless you actually earn that trip through the solution of ego. So it is a type of cheating when you say, "Well, I want to go there now and take psychedelic," and no. And this, you cannot cheat. You cannot fake the real light, and you cannot cheat in this game. You can, if you have cheated, you created the false light, and you may have tricked a few people and yourself, but you're still a fool. You know? Fool's gold. That's the true meaning of the fool's gold. It's not the real gold. Because you have to face what is. You have to face the source of all the stream of the consciousness. You have to learn how to calibrate this. You signed up to play this game correctly, and now when you win this game and all these external temptations there, and you've always been conditioned to look for the external temptations, and I even include the mind games. Like, even if you close your eyes and you imagine things, that's still considered to be an external thing. You imagine something to fix that feeling, that is still creating placebo, but it does not mean that it's real. Placebo is false. It may create the temporary results that were basically conjured up by your mind, but it's false and temporary. And so that's why mind is used for other things. Mind is not used for spirit. You see? You should use your mind for the things that are tangible and real, and whatever you need to accomplish in the physical reality. That's what the mind's supposed to be used. It's a world of form. But your heart, which a lot of people don't even know how to use it, because they're used to using the mind, which is non-liminal, and it's kind of one or the other. So to fall into this liminal space where it's neither this, neither that, and it just becomes this infinite falling through, which becomes a beginning of surfing that calibration of your consciousness. But everybody has this capacity, and everybody can do it. But some people may be so backed up that it really takes deep down looking there until it starts doing thing and unraveling. And they're not compatible. You cannot have the false and then you can have and then you have the real and then you false. It's every time you take something false, to compensate for the spirit, external, anything external, to compensate for the spirit, everything, you understand, everything is bullshit. Everything is another pacifier, and is no better to any kind of drug. So this is a huge flip that needs to be learned, that like in my world, it's not that it's banned in this reality. It's permitted to go and take something false to compensate for the lack of it for now, but it is very clear direction for me. Is it anything external to compensate for the spirit? And if the answer is it is external, including your mind, no. And that is what I made in the previous video, is what it means to biting of an apple. It's just not moving your consciousness that way, and trying to live your life, or doing your best to live your life through the another way of moving. It's a completely different way of moving. Okay? And as you live life like that, these things stop working. Really. Like Rupert Sheldrake was talking about morphogenetic fields, right? And he said how even laws of nature, we took them as laws, but turns out they're just habits, that they do change. And it's like that. The law of this reality is changing, and that says if you take anything false to pacify, your ego, with that false light, which is what evil is. I'm saying this repeatedly, and the highest form of evil is the abuse of innocence, because that's just basically the theft of soul energy, the vampirism itself. Then the law changes, and the law says that's not working anymore. Understand? This is why a vampire could do the same thing as used to do, but suddenly, it's not working. How the fuck is not working? Because you're in a different reality, brother. You're in a different reality right now. The reality has changed. The shit don't work like this anymore. And the evil is disappearing, not because evil people stop being evil. It's because the evil shit that they're doing is not working anymore. It is because more and more people are tapping into the real light and withdrawing their energy. This is the tendency that was going on right now, and it is like the definition of spiritual war. This is why sometimes I may be a little bit too aggressive but sometimes I do have to say it. I want to snap people out of it. Like, what are you doing? Just basically, this is not it. This is false. If I have a chance to say it to somebody, I'll say it. But now I'm leaning more towards like silent exorcism. What I don't really have to say trigger anybody. I can already, at the deepest level, pick up the energy and already start exercising that energy without triggering anybody. So if you see the movie like The Exorcist, and so you see all this like a very violent thing, with the demon burning in the light and shit like that. Okay, that can be done also, but it's very a very nasty process that takes a toll on you, takes a toll on the people on whom you're exercising, and perhaps at some point in life that is necessary or was necessary. Maybe that was just the only thing that was available. But when you learn the alchemy better and better, and you see how these energies work, you realize that, you can cook a frog little by little. I don't even notice. That's the thing about demons, is that you can cook them little by little. I don't even notice that they're dissolving. And by the way, every demon used to be an angel. Every secret desire of a demon is to become an angel. Every secret desire of the demon is to cease to exist as a demon. Isn't it interesting? This is why demonic people maybe start flocking to you as soon as you start doing the alchemy. More fuel for the alchemy. The lesson is this: keep doing. And I've done it a few times, completely silent, without triggering a person, and I know it worked, and it is completely possible to do. So this is why right now I'm focused more on the ninja exorcism, and and boiling the frog slowly so it doesn't even notice, and so there's no resistance. And it can only be done from the within. Externally, you can even talk to a person in just on a superficial layer without drilling anything deeper, so they don't feel any threatened at all by that. At the same time, from the within, you already have the energies slowly, slowly, that they can't notice already, taking that energy and dissolving. What I'm saying to you guys is a massive discovery. I mean, I don't know really. I would like to see more of whom I'm talking to book a session. But so far, the people that I had the sessions with, like, surprised me, because I mean, all the people who picked up on it so fast. It was unbelievable to me to see such a fast evolution, and to get up to speed, basically, you know, so fast. Because it is a bit like, learning curve, but there is a point where you can get up to speed and keep on tracking by yourself, from then on. So I'm all for this silent exorcism. And so I think that's why, like, when people have this demonic entities, they really want not to have it, even that, um, this belief system itself wants to die because it's abomination. And when you know that it's a true, the real secret desire is to die, then you killing it softly. you know and there is a way to kill it softly. Well, that's what they wanted to say, to be careful with psychedelics. Okay, I always say, try it once. Okay, and when you try it, try if you try it, try with people that you know, people that you trust, people who have a track record of doing this. If you're doing it in a clinical setting, um, don't just stick with strangers that you don't know in a foreign country, in the jungle that you don't know. By the way, neither of these civilizations, like Maya or Aztecs or anything like that, they're glorified, but they were, you know sacrificing own people, very inverted, very false light driven. Nothing to glorify that. The original civilization which built the pyramids was holistic. But these people who now, uh, you know, pretending to be Maya, they're not Maya. They're just not. They're the opposite of that, of what Maya was. They're imposters. They're just tribal people, just came in, took the best way they can, and uh, took some of the traditions. They're imitating them. They don't know what they're doing, and this is why, trust no shaman. Trust no fucking shaman. For thousands of years, no real shaman existed. They were all dark shamans. They only understand, spirit through the psychedelics, through hallucinatory experiences, through this external, this dark spirit, the dark passion, as I call it. Don't don't open your heart to that. You saw what happened with the Will Smith and so on and so on. I mean, and I mean, I wasn't abusing psychedelics that much, but I was taking like every year or so. It was too much. And at first, of course, it gave me some insights and an understanding of how consciousness works and how reality works, and it was great. Um, but then um, it affected my decision making. Uh, you see what I'm trying to say? It affected my clear decision making because it was way too towards opened boundaries in an incorrect way, right? That's what was going on. It was like I was opening boundaries in the correct way with the people that I don't know, um, or um, or relationship dynamic that is this dysfunctional and lust based and shit like that. And I really think it's because of psychedelics. And once of each psychedelic, fair enough, try it, sure. Never go back. Rely upon yourself. And I think that's the best advice that I can give because it turns you something very ugly. I've seen these people who abuse these things, and it's not pretty. False light is just a temporary glow, right? And then after this glow, crash come in, and what are you gonna do? Glow up yourself? Glow up again? What does it sound like to you? No different from the blue pill addiction. You can be addicted to the red pill as well. This is why this idea that like, well, if what if you just put LSD in the government's water, and so all these people are gonna just wake up and start realizing how everything is. Okay, temporarily, yeah, but everything's just gonna go back to how it was. Or are you gonna keep the darkness within and keep on sugarcoating with psychedelics? Is that what you're gonna do? Because psychedelics don't do this for you, you know. And also, I think that there's phases in your life where, for example, weed. I said it before. And one point in my life, it was useful, and because I was way too tight, I was way too disciplined and rigid and systematic and things like that. Which, by the way, this is what that one way of coping with life is to become very systematic and rigid and just like a robot. And you can have a lot of external success like that, but very little meaning, little soul flowing there inside, and because I was such a robotic person, discipline, 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 this is nothing else, I knew that this is just not the way. But then I swung a little bit too much the other side, and psychedelics, weed, and stuff like that. And I just went way too much to the other side. But now I realize, like, okay, I'm not going back to this type of robotic way. I'm not going back to this hippie way, and neither of them are going to be um, sort of like the way out. And the only way out is the real deal. And there's a part of my consciousness that needs to be disciplined. There's a part of my consciousness that needs to be keep on chilling, you know. And the only way that you can have that real balance is through your own consciousness, not through external consumption of things. Like, you can take things, supplement your body, and to have more nutrients and stuff like that, to function better. But I don't know about, like, I was interested in these things, in taking like some, even some teas like blue lotus tea and stuff like that, and maybe like some mild effects are fun, and it's okay, and it's not like a big deal, you know. I'm trying to say, um, there could be some assistance there, but don't rely upon that. Like, eventually you don't want to take anything exogenously and be able to do anything that is necessary with your consciousness, as it is, cleanly, you know. Again, it's not clinging on any kind of belief still, because it's so clear in, you don't say like, well, I can't eat meat right now. Like, well, if your body is still, built more like once in a while you eat meat, maybe not a lot of meat like you used to, but maybe once a week. Like, for example, I once a week eat red meat, but only once a week. um you know and everything has its place. So you're not, even like, for example, if somebody like, oh, I have counting days, like, oh, I haven't had alcohol in 6 months. Okay, you're still addicted to alcohol because you're counting freaking days and you're afraid of it. That's not it. You don't want to have addiction completely, and you can't even relate to like old version of you that was addicted to this. It's, you don't want more than is necessary, so you can have a glass of wine with food because it tastes good, it's nice, and a little bit, it does have an effect to like to the blood flow and stuff like that, and it's healthy. But you just cross that line and that's it, and it's not healthy anymore, because drinking wine because it tastes good, and um, you're just enjoying that body relaxing effect, but not to pacify any kind of suffering within yourself. That's a very different way of consuming alcohol, you see. Anyway, everything has its own place. But eventually everything leads to the same way. There's only one way out of this labyrinth. And so my take right now is, why not just go there directly? You may not need to go on this crazy journey, crazy psychedelic journey. Because I know, like, some people take them, do these ceremonies, and they become the group of people. They become this culty, and you see the type, and they all kind of recognize each other, but they're all um addicted. They found another way that they believe now that is the real way. Okay, no, it's just taking psychedelics once in a while. And I've noticed that within myself. Again, a lot of things, if it's universal function of consciousness, then you can see this across the board. If it's like something personal, the content of consciousness, not the consciousness itself, then also it can be seen in other people in different type of patterns. The only uniqueness that comes out of you is directly from the soul, that spontaneous energy. That's the only thing that is unique about you, and it cannot be copied or imitated by anybody else, and every soul has that. So yeah, the answer is yes. I have to say it. And I'm sure that you also notice the dark side of psychedelics and what it does to people. And like I said, I've seen on myself. I watch it. And if I'm not taking anything and I'm clean and I'm healthy, I'm doing all my things, there's a certain type of clarity, a certain type of approach, a certain type of decision making that is wise. You don't cross the boundaries where you're not supposed to. You go where the energy is flowing, right? Alchemize what is necessary. Like you are in the game. But as soon as you take something, suddenly you're out. Suddenly you're making decisions that you would not normally make. You say things that you not normally would do. You know, and you already are going on a timeline that is not your ideal timeline. And you may think like, well, it's just I just smoked some weed. What's the big deal? It's a massive deal. I mean, if you overdid it, then it wasn't necessary. I was always cautious with these things. But even then, I realized that, oh my God, it affected me more than I thought and made me make decisions that are quite reckless without, you know, following the right path. And the sad part is that it is false. That is the sad part. That it's not it's not just like a light that you consume outside yourself. It is that light that you consume outside yourself is the opposite of the light that you is within you. That's the saddest part. That person taking a lot of psychedelics and breaking the sacred boundaries of man, between man and a woman, and creating a harem or something like that, because that's lust based. It's the opposite of sacred. It's not this like, oh, it is just a choice of this. These people like it. Okay, well, yeah, or they do it because they're lust um, driven and they are demonic. Period. That's not glorified. It's like, oh, it's just a life choice. No, I mean, yeah, it is a life choice, but it's Babylonian. So let's see. Let's call it as what it is. You can have a person. Well, they're not hurting anybody. Okay, do whatever you want, but don't hurt anybody. And okay, so then there's mutual, um, you know, Luciferian cultivation of light. Still bullshit. Still the opposite. Still not nothing to do with love. And I often ask this question, like in all sorts of relationship dynamics, like is this love? Like I want to see what love feels like, and I don't want it to be hallucinated in my mind, and I don't want it to be externally created. And I dig down into my soul and look for what the love is. And when I see it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is not love. And out, done with it. Not no. And I don't want to be connected with anybody in this type of way. Does that make sense? And my approach right now is if I see people behaving in this way, alchemy, 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 and building up that real light as much as possible. That's when people start losing interest, and they say, well, I don't want to do this thing anymore because it doesn't feel good anymore. And then there's realizations like, oh, this thing that I was doing and I was getting off of, it's actually like, how is this, and it's kind of far away from love, and I don't want this thing no more. And love becomes something that you value, and not pretend that there is love, which is just lust masquerading as love. And it's tricky. Again, I'm speaking from the experience. And it's been many times that I repeated the same mistake, observing it, seeing this. It's like, okay, yeah, it's not it. Then do it again, and then you watch this. It's like, yeah, it was. It was a good imitation, but it's not it. And then you realize how it can be imitated. That real light could be imitated so well that for a moment you think it is real. But there's a quality that it cannot fake, and you have to look for that quality. And this is what I'm doing right now. Not to be, of course, you may say, like, well, it's kind of easy. It is not easy. It, unless you always calibrating everything perfectly, you will sometimes be tricked into this, because like you're calibrating everything perfectly, like you sleep, you wake up, and as you wake up and you're just not realizing you already are being put on the track on this other timeline out of habit or whatever. And you think, oh, it's okay, it's valid, this is normal, this is just part of my body need or whatever. And then sure enough, you realize, oh my god, I got trapped into this bullshit again. But the more you value that real light, um, and honestly, like, everything fades in comparison. And to be honest, like, it got to the point where I know when somebody would tell me, it's like, well, uh, this physical sex is kind of um, ridiculous, animalistic act and whatnot. And I was like, what are you talking about? This, like, but now I can see that how it can be without any kind of traditional physical sex, which is, by the way, is kind of ruined anyway. People are conditioned to be kind of disconnected in sex, so it's not even real anyway, and it's not worth it. Yeah, honestly, I can see that right now. It is not worth it unless it is your other half. And the reason it's not worth it, because there's something else within you that is far greater than a sneeze between your legs. You see what I'm trying to say? And when all the dark fantasies go away, and these things don't work anymore, then it's really just a sneeze between the legs. Anyway, guys, in this way, um, Again, the celibacy happened. When people talk about like semen retention stuff like that, these things happen as an emergent property. Now, because you're doing this and trying to control it through the willpower, it just happens because there's something inside of you that is far greater than that, seeking for that thing. And so you're not torturing yourself. You're not using willpower to this because you discover something that is greater within yourself. And I know that this is not something that just anybody can arrive. So this is why they're playing with this. So like, oh, we have to remain, retain semen, or we have to be celibate or whatever. No, this thing happens automatically. You just and not that you um, you stop having sex because now you're just like this asexual, and just kind of flat. No, the passion is still there, but the passion is so strong that you don't even need to seek for it in these acts. That's legit. There's no self torture. That's just, for example, fasting. People fast like on purpose. I fast because I just don't want to eat sometimes. And I don't want to eat sometimes because I feel so good inside. And I just don't eat. Then the hunger comes back and I start eating again. And so, you know, so there's no kind of like a control and say, like, well, I'm going to be a celibate now. No, it is, if you're not missing it because there's something greater is filling up your life, then that's great. That you're you're not missing it. Something else is greater than this. Not that um, this is off from your life, which is what the passion that you would get from sex now is within you without having sex. So you don't need sex because it's already with you. Does that make sense? Sex becomes something different. It becomes this dance between the masculine and the feminine, which is making love, not necessarily sex. This is why I would say that there's a difference between making love and sex. Sex is the physical act. Making love is internal process. It's non-physical process. And whenever there's making love, then sex is all right. It's valid. But if there is no making love, then sex is just going to be uh, like a compensation for the lack of passion. So anyway, that's enough for today. That's really taking out so many things that people are doing it as a solution. And but yeah, I'm not worried about this anymore because I can see how it all works. And if I play my game right and have other people who also play their game right, that will be enough. You know how you eradicate the vampires on this planet? How do you eradicate these vampiric families that they say that they're not human? You boil the frog gradually, slowly, without too much of the intensity increase, rising the genuine light within yourself. Slowly, slowly, rising, 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 rising. And that's how you cook them. And you make this environment, which is this planet, uninhabitable to the pests and parasites, because they can only thrive in a type of, you know, environment where it is Luciferian, right? They feed on the false light. So when the false light is not working anymore and the real light is growing, they cannot live the intensity of the real light. This is why in the movies they show the vampires are burning in the sunlight, and that symbolism for the real light energy. And that's how you cook them. And when a planet becomes like that, then they don't want to be in a planet. But there's just there's nothing that they can do. You understand? It's just like uninhabitable. It's for them. It's useless because they cannot inhabit this planet. But you're gonna see a lot more of, you know, like this, for example, this gray alien UFOs right now that you see. But you're gonna see a lot more of the holistic societies that came originally to build pyramids and create these holistic societies, which was based about this orgone energy, which based about, like, if they want to organize the society, you must have that, you know. But now they decided that we're not gonna come in and start building these energy alignment things to have the holistic society. It says we have to have uh, beings. We have to have people who do that, not devices. I don't know why they decided to do that, but and once that threshold is crossed, then they will be able to inhabit this planet. You see what I'm trying to say? They cannot inhabit this planet if it's mostly simulated and matrix based. But as soon as there's pockets of holistics, they're going to start appearing, and they're going to start helping to build a better governmental systems. Um, we already have this already started, um, and I'm excited about this. There's a bit of a war that still need to be done, but we are on a stretch line. I can tell you that we are on a stretch line. Anyway, all right, guys, peace, and I'll see you in the next one.